Alright guys, welcome back to the soap opera on wheels that is Formula 1. After one of the biggest announcements ever last week that Lewis Hamilton is joining Ferrari, we now have major allegations emerging against the team principal of Red Bull in Christian Horner. There is a non-zero chance, based on this outside investigation currently ongoing, that Horner is no longer the TP at Red Bull before the new season begins. What does this mean for the team? Is this the beginning of the end these last few days of the Red Bull Mercedes dominance of the last 15 years? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I really appreciate it. So much support over the last couple of days. It's been absolutely fantastic. Really, thank you very much indeed. But we've got so much drama to dive into today. We'll get back to Mercedes in a second because you can't go a day right now without talking about the whole Mercedes situation. This, however, is the Williams livery for the new season. Somewhat overshadowed, I will say, these car launches by the immense amount of storylines emerging in F1 right now. But this is the Williams car. I think it actually looks really rather nice. They still have the Duracell battery looking thing at the top here, which is, I know lots of people really like that. Komatsu as well on the side, you guys might notice, because Komatsu is not the team principal of Haas Komatsu. Well, it is, it's the same name, but it's a different Komatsu. So, yeah, he's not sponsoring his competitor, as it were. And on this side pod, which is, well, the side pods of many cars this year will very strongly replicate what we have seen Red Bull have good success with the downwash undercut concepts of the last couple of years. So, yeah, this is what the Haas looks like. I think it's really rather nice. It's not too black either, at least for now. Sometimes we see that over time the teams decide if they can have more carbon showing, they will, but you know, I think it's a pretty damn nice twist. This also are the race suits they're going for, which are somewhat better than what we have just seen here for Stake F1 team, which is look, I'm not going to comment on this. I'll just show you the full outfit here that Valtteri Bottas is wearing as Stake Kick whatever it is F1 team announced everything also today. But people certainly care somewhat more so about the other storylines of the day. Quite a nice touch as well on the rear of the livery with these lines here, which pretty much represents the Frank Williams original logo. Nice little callback right there. But more drama at Mercedes. Firstly, some new information, more new information really on exactly what happened behind the scenes at Ferrari to get this deal done. As is being discussed here, only a small group of people knew. Apparently 4 or 5 people were aware at all that this was going on. It was some sort of a presidential decree by Mr. John Alcan to get this done. Charles Leclerc was one of those that knew. He apparently reacted very positively, and there's lots of talk that Mercedes, well, Hamilton will not arrive on his own, right? That's the key talking point, that Vettel didn't really bring along his team. In many sense, Schumacher did, revolutionized Ferrari for a few years before they arguably, you know, Brawn and Todd and these guys arguably became too powerful for the Ferrari political dynamic that is over there, and then effectively those guys were shuffled out the door. We'll see if Hamilton can try and execute something similarly, because definitely the intention is to bring people along with him, and apparently Ferrari will be very welcoming of anyone that wants to come with Hamilton, either from Mercedes or from another team to Mercedes. Bono, of course, the race engineer, very much included in that analysis, and there were some rumours that Bono's already said yes to this, but I kind of doubt that he's done so within 1 or 2 business days. I'm sure they'll have some discussions to have. Mercedes as well have to figure out who the hell they replace Hamilton with. We discussed 2 of the key candidates yesterday because Toto said they're probably going to be more bold in their decision making, which might be necessary because Hamilton and Leclerc is an unbelievable driver pairing, and when you've got Russell +1, you know, you want to be able to compete with that. It's tough to compete with Hamilton and Leclerc. I also think Red Bull will be seeing Hamilton and Leclerc and thinking, I've got a second, you know, we might need... Verstappen is unlikely to be able to win the title on his own forever if Hamilton and Leclerc is a driver pairing and Ferrari are competitive come 2026. And who knows what's going to happen with Red Bull based on what we're going to discuss here in a couple of seconds. Toto did say, though, we're not going to rush to make the choice. We want to make the right choice, which sounds to me like we're going to wait and see how Kimi Antonelli does in Formula 2, because if he's absolutely cooking, and there were some rumours coming out yesterday from Mark Hughes, actually, who said that as far as he's concerned, Antonelli, the 17-year-old prodigy driver for Mercedes, will be getting that seat. He said that they'd recently done some Formula 2 testing with all the F2 drivers, but in F3 cars, because they're not allowed to test in the new Formula 2 cars, and apparently in the wet conditions, Antonelli was seconds a lap faster than anybody else. Now, I don't know how accurate that is. I'm sure there's loads of different conditions, but the feeling is that Antonelli is a very talented driver and probably will be in a Mercedes Formula 1 car at some point. Whether next year is the right time, that's a question, but I think clearly for Toto and Mercedes, they're not looking to rush this because they want to see if this guy is legit. Because if he is legit, and he's legit quickly, then why not? So they, it seems, will bide their time somewhat in this decision. There's also this I've got to mention before the Christian Horner stuff, though, on exactly how the whole Mercedes-Hamilton split has happened. Because according to Motorsport Italy, Toto Wolff was aware, based on the negotiations they had, only only agreeing to a 1+1 rather than a 2+1, which Ferrari offered him, that they'd left the door open for Hamilton to leave. Toto himself would have been happy to give Hamilton a 2-year deal, but restrictions on a shorter contract came from the German authorities, the German higher-ups in Stuttgart. The main problem with this contract was there were fears that Lewis would suddenly retire at the end of 2024, as Rosberg did in 2016. The more that comes out about this Hamilton to Ferrari thing, the more it makes sense from so many angles why this has happened and why this has happened now. They only offered him a 1+1. Exactly why is a valid discussion point, but apparently it's because they thought that he might just step away at the end of 2024. They wanted to, have other options on the table. Apparently, the contract that Lewis has broken, right, so it's a 1+1 that they signed, and they confirmed that back in August or whatever it was, last year, but Hamilton decided himself to break off the deal after 1 year. Apparently, Mercedes also had the option, so Hamilton was not guaranteed that Mercedes would even keep him going into 2025 if they decided to break the deal. Ferrari said, look, Lewis, we really want you. We'd love to have you as part of the team. We're going to give you everything you want, and we can probably offer at least as competitive a car come 2026, and there's all these other reasons why Ferrari might be good. Kind of a no-brainer. And that's why Toto said afterwards that he felt like this was coming maybe after 2025. He just didn't think it would happen now precisely. But yeah, Toto must feel frustrated that he either didn't get the approval from the higher-ups to give Hamilton the contract that he wanted, and that in hindsight is probably why those contract negotiations took rather longer than we might have expected. So yeah, the more that comes out, the more you've got to understand it. But we've got to talk about this man that you can't really see. This is Christian Horner. This is January the 27th. Even Bono was spotted in the background. So this is before the Hamilton news broke. It's not like the news broke and all of a sudden Bono spotted here with Horner. I think it's like some horses thing. He worked with Jerry on some horse project. I don't really know, but they were spotted there a few days ago. But this comes out today on Christian Horner. And this is such a massive bombshell that it's difficult to imagine that it's possible that these two things have happened within a few days of each other. But to be honest, I thought this season going into it was going to be pretty dull. There hasn't been many storylines lately. So many drivers have been locked into long-term deals. And all of a sudden, Formula One has just exploded in action over the last couple of days. So Eric Van Haren, firstly comments on the journalist, Dutch journalist, very close to the Verstappen camp, gets lots of information from Marco and from the Verstappen team in general, close to Red Bull as well. So when these things are happening, you've got to wonder why they're happening, but also the fact that he's getting this information. Red Bull has launched an independent investigation after allegations of inappropriate behaviour by team boss Christian Horner. The company confirmed this after questions from the Telegraph. So what seems to have happened here is rumours about this investigation emerged. Then the Telegraph, Van Haren or whatever, because maybe Van Haren was informed by certain parties that we might want to speculate on, they then asked the team and they said, yeah, we do have these allegations. We're taking this very seriously. Horner has, expressly denied that any of this stuff is true. And we don't really know what the inappropriate behaviour is, but we'll discuss that in a second. So this was what was said in the article, that Horner is said to have been guilty of inappropriate behaviour, in particular towards one particular member of Red Bull Racing. Oliver Mintzlaff, who's now the new guy in charge over there, the major sports boss after Dietrich Maneschitz's passing, knows about the accusations and takes the matter very seriously. Red Bull then responded and said, after the company was informed of certain recent allegations, an independent investigation has been launched. This process, which is already underway, is carried out by an external specialized lawyer. The company takes these matters extremely seriously, and the investigation will be completed as soon as is practically possible. It would not be appropriate to comment further at this time. Just one other thing to clarify, this is another article about it, and I'll just show you guys the original German, because, well, what this translates to, as you guys can see the title, the background is said to be a serious allegation made by an employee against the Brits, basically. Now, the word for employee, I'm not really familiar with German, but I know people were saying that this, I think this is what that translates to, but this is the female version, I'm pretty sure, of that word. If I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but people wondering, is this just coincidence, or does that imply that they know that it's like a female member of staff, which obviously maybe implies a little bit more as to what these allegations might be than otherwise. That's pretty much all we know as it stands. Horner denies the allegations, but the company is investigating them very seriously. And also just the fact in general that there's this external investigation going on, an independent investigation that has now been leaked to the press. And, well, not even just leaked, but, they then requested comment, the press. Red Bull then said something. It's one of these things where if that has been leaked by whoever it's been leaked by internally, obviously this has negative connotations for, reputational damage on Horner, even if he's guilty or if he's not, in the same way that apparently Toto and Susie Wolff are looking at, basically legal action against Mohammed bin Sulayem and the FIA for launching that investigation a couple of months ago now, when they then, oh, sorry guys, nothing was actually going on there, because Toto and Susie are like, well, hang on a second, you guys just damaged our reputation in the media for a few days, and you're just going to say sorry? We want money and repercussions for that. So if you're an external legal entity, and this is now leaked to the press, this is obviously looks bad for Horner, right? So if Horner's done nothing wrong, then, there's potential issues there. So you got to wonder, has this been leaked because there's some more element of truth to it than might otherwise be expected? And I think this is the other reason why I believe that this is probably quite severe, is because Red Bull historically, they have history of some of their individuals maybe saying highly questionable things and being in a position where they might be at risk of being fired. I think even Lewis Hamilton has previously implied that people like Helmut Marko and the beliefs that he seems to have shouldn't really be welcome in the sport. And Hamilton has basically said that those type of comments would not be, they would not fly at Mercedes. We remember the comments that Marko made on Perez last season, saying that because he was South American, he didn't have the cutting edge and the instincts that some of the, German and Dutch drivers maybe have. Obviously, Perez not even South America, right? He's in Mexico. So there was lots to talk about that, and plenty of other things that Marko has said over the years. But all of those things, they've been addressed publicly, and Marko's had to apologise on occasion. The team has said, Helmut Marko, stop that, don't do it again type thing. But Red Bull generally, he's got away with it, right, really. Marko's still employed at Red Bull. He's still, he's still the furniture as part of that organisation. So all of a sudden, Christian Horner is under, big-time investigation here by an external entity, and there's all this talk from Oliver Mintzlaff, oh yeah, really serious, we're taking it really seriously and all this. So what has he done, right? It's got to be something pretty mega, you would think, if it's gone to this extent. So there's a couple of options, obviously. It could just be, abusive behaviour towards an employee. That's plausible. Obviously, it could be more severe than that. And whatever it is, it's got to be pretty severe, you would say. So that's really all the speculation that we can do at the moment. But whatever it potentially is, when it gets to this type of level, you've got to assume there's at least a reasonable chance that Horner is no longer in charge at Red Bull in the near future. And as crazy as it might sound, Mike Crack, who is already the third longest serving team principal, who has not been in charge of Aston Martin long, but after all the changes on the other teams, he's the third longest serving TP on the grid, Mike Crack. He might well soon be the second longest serving. And who knows if he might be the first, because Hamilton's just left Mercedes. Well, he hasn't yet, but it's coming soon. And who knows what that means for Toto Wolff, right? So it's a remarkable few days when Mercedes are seemingly collapsing internally. Hamilton's gone. He's going to take guys with him. He clearly feels, as he did with McLaren when he joined Mercedes in the first place, that Mercedes is not the future. They're not on the trajectory they need to be on. Ferrari are the best place to be for various reasons. There's other factors, contract stuff and all this. But, Mercedes, it doesn't feel like have made good decisions over the last few years. They've regressed as a team. Hamilton wants out. Others will leave with him. And there's a major rebuild project, I would say, at Mercedes over the upcoming years if they want to get back on the track that they need to be on. Red Bull and Mercedes have dominated this sport for the last 15 years. Is it possible that we enter a time frame in the next few years where, once again, we return to what some would consider the glory days of Ferrari versus McLaren being the primary rivalry in Formula 1? McLaren and Ferrari both seem to be moving in a good direction, and Red Bull will be so difficult to stop anyway. Let's say Horner's fired tomorrow or something, and he's out of the team. He's clearly done a phenomenal job building that team over the last couple of decades, ever since they came into the sport. And I think they would miss his presence massively. But the team that he's built is still very strong. And you could put Verstappen, a pit crew, Giampiero Lambiase and a Red Bull in a team, and they're still going to be competitive regardless of the other circumstances, I would say, especially a newly designed Red Bull. But, if Horner was to go, what does that mean for those relationships? Is that an opportunity for Fred Vasseur to say, look, Mr. Newey, we've got a good option for you here over at Ferrari. You get to work with Hamilton. Who knows what this implies, right? But the fact that Mercedes are in a tricky spot and the fact that Horner might be ousted from the team for whatever reason in the near future is making people wonder whether the whole Red Bull Mercedes era we have had for the last decade and a half might be, this could be a crucial week in Formula One history in terms of how things look 5, 10, 20 years down the line. So it's difficult to say really any more on this situation for now, apart from if Horner is to go, then someone's got to come in to replace him theoretically. And it would be remarkable to me that after all the things that Helmut Marko has done, that he stays in the team. It also makes me wonder a little bit as to whether there was anything to the story, that behind the scenes there was a bit of friction between Marko and Horner. I don't know if you guys remember the comments we mentioned last year sometime when Marko said that, I'll stay in this team as long as I want to type thing. If someone wants me gone, it's not going to be Mr. Horner to decide. And there were rumours at the time that there was some friction between the two of them, basically based on internal politics, when Horner was trying to, after Matejic's passing, take more control over AlphaTauri and the outfit over there. And Marko was trying to maybe wrestle Marko off dealing so much with the junior programs, the rookie drivers. The rumour was there was some sort of battle for power internally. And now we have, a few months later, serious allegations raised against Horner. You just gotta wonder whether anything has happened there behind the scenes. There's some sort of internal coup at Red Bull, I don't know, maybe led by Mr. Marko. Obviously, this pure speculation, right? But it's just interesting timing over the last few months that there's rumoured to be internal friction at Red Bull for whatever reason. And now we're hearing big allegations, accusations, investigations coming out against Horner. Makes you think what exactly has happened there over the last few months. And maybe it's inevitable that when a team dominates for a certain amount of time, that can only last for too long. Helmut Marko has been quite active as well in the media over the last couple of days. He even mentioned about Mercedes trying to sign Max because, look, Toto will probably give a call, won't he, to Max and say, look, what's it going to take for you to join us? We'll pay you more than Hamilton's getting paid, basically. And I don't think Max would do that. And as, Marko says, he's not going to be successful in getting Max. He's got a good memory and has not forgotten about Mercedes accusations. I'm not really sure why this is relevant because, the Silverstone crash, the Abu Dhabi season finale, I'm not really sure how these are relevant to Max not leaving Red Bull. I think the more relevant thing is Red Bull have the best car by a mile and Mercedes don't. So kind of a no-brainer, isn't it? I've just refreshed the timeline real quick and I've just seen this floating around on the podcast that they've done, actually, the Telegraph. Red Bull, the company, started the investigation, not Red Bull Racing, which is pretty interesting. They also say there's not a case of he said, she said. There's genuine evidence here. So, yeah, take that as you will. Of course, Horner is going to categorically and entirely deny these claims, but, Horner has occasionally said things which don't turn out to be true as time goes on. So massively intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. What a wild few days in the Formula 1 landscape. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you next time.